What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Mike from NYC. Feel me? And we back with another reaction video. We back on the animals. I live with two grizzly bears. Reaction from Beast Buddies. So shout out to Samar for, you know what I'm saying, continuing to bless up. You feel me? Definitely appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Definitely don't want to, you feel me, act like it's not appreciated, because it is. But I live with two grizzly bears. I mean, I feel like that's easier than living with or being friends with a shark. It's just as easy as living with lions, if not easier. Because like a lion is in theory, I would say maybe like a big cat, so maybe it's a little bit more fathomable. And a hyena, in the way I look at it, is more like a big dog. But a bear, I don't know how that interaction goes, because if you watch the lion video, you know, it was a lot of like, you know, subtle rules in the way that they play and the way that they interact. You know what I mean? And like, you know, the way he was like, you know, smacking dude, like, you know what I'm saying? Yo, you can't just do that. And the hyenas, it was a little bit like, it was a little bit more like the boundaries weren't tested as much. But a bear, I don't really know what to expect. I feel like bears probably might be more chill, if anything. Yeah, I don't really know. Anything I don't know. I feel like bears probably would be the easiest of the three to live with, just cause I feel like bears be chilling though, for the most part. Like relatively to a lion or to a hyena. I don't know, but without me talking anymore, let's get into the video.
Where there's commitment, there's
When you have bears, there's no vacation. These are wild animals. They are apex carnivores, and they rule the roost.
Apex carnivores. That sounds like an elite compliment.
I've had an interest in bears since I was a boy. I never thought I'd get a bear. 30 years ago, I'd been sick, had a neurological disease, was paralyzed at a young age, and when I got back on my feet and I had this opportunity to get a bear, I thought, you know, this just be my therapy. I'll hang out with it in the woods, and that's how it all began. I started off with one bear, Brody. He would take 9 half-gallon calf bottles at a time. Started off at 8 pounds. At a year old, he was 400 pounds. A year and a half, he was 550 pounds. So I bottle fed him for 3 years. When you raise a bear, you become the surrogate mother, and they won't leave your side. And they go through a lot of separation anxiety. This is a lot like a human being. Most definitely when they're young, they see you as their mother. I clearly remember the first time I realized that a bear isn't a dog. It was a 60-pound bear cub. That may sound silly, but most people think that if they take a wild animal and they love it and they treat it just right, that somehow they will get it to surrender its natural instincts, and that'll never happen. You can never tame a bear. You can train one, but you can never tame one. The two bears I currently have are Bob and Screech. They're littermate brothers, around 7 years of age, and they came from a park in Georgia. It was a tourist attraction, and they went out of business. And prior to going out of business, a friend of mine had called me and said, hey, they've got a couple bear cubs they don't want. I didn't pay for them. They were given to me. People asked me if I rescued them, and to me that's kind of an overplayed word. I took them, I've raised them, and I've loved them, and I try to give them the best life that you can give a captive bear. Who knows what their fate would have been. When I started handling bears, it was just to interact with them. Nothing commercial, but I realized it's going to take a lot of money to facilitate this hobby. So I tried to marry a hobby with a profession. I started doing commercial work, TV shows, live appearances. You want to play? You want to play? And it evolved involved into the educational presentations where the animal itself can benefit and people can benefit, so I can hopefully save the lives of people and of bears. And that's where I'm at now. No bear likes to be surprised, but if you surprise a brown bear and they perceive that as possibly you being a threat to themselves, their young, their food source, and oftentimes these guys try to kill you because they're trying to eliminate that perceived threat. That's why they tell you to play dead if you're out in the backcountry and you're attacked by a brown bear. I've always been reluctant to tell people that they are pets because they don't meet the traditional definition of a pet. Most people don't have pets that can kill them, but it comes with the territory. These are wild animals. They are apex carnivores, and they rule the roost. The main thing when you have them in captivity is to keep them from being bored. You know, you see the neurotic behavior, the pacing, what they call stereotypy in zoos oftentimes. These guys have a lot in this habitat. That's one thing we don't want. We don't want pacing. We don't want them going nuts. I feel my main focus right now with Bob and Screech is to use them to educate people on how to behave in bear country to save the lives of people and of bears. As habitat is shrinking, there's less area for the bears. My main focus is just trying to keep people alive and keep bears alive. When you have bears, they take up all your time. There's no vacations. I've had bears 30 years, and you're always thinking of, whether it's getting food, building new enclosures. There's no downtime. This isn't an animal that's a low-maintenance animal. I worked on a program called Project Grizzly. I was trying to take Bob and Screech, two captive-born, captive-raised bears, to see if it was possible to release them into the wild. The problem with a bear in the wild is if it loses its fear of people and becomes habituated, or if it associates people with food and becomes food conditioned, it's usually marked for death. The question was, can you take these captive-born animals and make them afraid of people and get them to stay away from people? And the experts that we had involved, some said that unless you use aversive conditioning with pain, like oftentimes they'll use water bullets and rubber bullets and pepper spray and bear dogs and lots of different things to just make them scared to death of human beings, but I wouldn't do it. My bears are well cared for and protected, but what we pretty much determined was unless you implement that type of aversive conditioning, you're not going to get these guys to fear humans. You're a good boy. Mud all over your clothes. I love them, but I watch them. Good boy. I make sure that I keep my mind where it should be, knowing that these animals, I wouldn't say would turn on me. Turning on me, in my opinion, would be it coming out of left field. A bear attacking me for absolutely no reason, can't put your finger on it whatsoever. But I know darn good and well, if I go in there with a hamburger, I better bring it up for the whole class, or I am going to get hurt. There's no surprises to that. People ask me, what does the future hold for Bob and Screech? I've made arrangements if something were to happen to me that they could go somewhere. But their future at this time is just to stay with me. I know some people would think that that's not healthy for them, but once they build a bond with somebody, it's kind of hard to break that bond.
Yeah, man. Another good video for sure. Similarly to what I said in my last video, one of the things that comes to mind is like, how is his relationship with other people? Doesn't really seem to have many other people in his life. It seems to, his bear seems to monopolize his life for the most part. So that's something that I definitely think is interesting. And it's like, which one came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, did the bears ostracize you from people, or people ostracize you and leading you to the bears? Assuming that, they don't really have a lot of, human companionship in their life. And two, it was interesting to hear 2 times that people brought up that, they turned to bears because of it helped them, like, get through a rough time, or it was very therapeutic for them. So that is interesting to hear that from him. Like, oh yeah, my bears, got me through rough times. My alligator is therapeutic, or whatever the case is. And I was thinking, like, how are all these dudes making money? And then I realized throughout the video, it was like, he would go to certain places, I guess he would charge, or whatever the case is. And like he said, he had to make it commercial, because you can't just feed 2 bears chilling. Like, it's not just some calm, leisure hobby, so that was one of the things I was thinking of. But yeah, man, that's interesting. Definitely interesting. Oh, the idea about them being bored, can't let them get bored. That was pretty interesting. Especially when you have them, domesticated to a degree. So you say you can't really fully tame a bear. You can train it, but you can't tame it. So the idea of making sure that they don't go bored is super important. So I'm interested to know how he entertains those bears all the time. Like that has to be like a good thick majority of your life, which if it is true, it makes sense why there's not a lot of other people in his life, you know what I mean? So I think that's super interesting, for sure. Like, yeah, don't let them get bored. Like, the last thing you want is them getting bored and then they start acting out of pocket, and then that's when crazy stuff starts to happen, for sure. But definitely another interesting video. It was it was a little bit of different from the hyenas and lions, because they went into their habitat. In this situation, he like he's in their habitat, which is something that I was like kind of thinking of, because bears, I feel like they be a little bit more on the move. They just like be ripping and running more. I really don't know. It's just like a feeling. But anyway, regardless, but definitely a good video. Definitely some interesting insight. Definitely something to think about. So that's definitely dope. So definitely like, comment, share, subscribe if you like this type of video, and definitely let me know what other videos you want me to see. You feel me? Yeah, peace.